Welcome to the Peak Season Podcast, the show where we dive deep into all things short-term rentals, hospitality, and how to run your property like a pro. I'm Luke.
And I'm Tyler. We're two super hosts turned co-hosts who help owners transform their vacation homes into thriving businesses. Welcome, everybody, to episode 6. Today's topic, what guests really want, insights from 500 plus days. Again, I'm Tyler, and I have here with me my partner, Luke. Luke, how you doing?
Hey, doing well. How's things?
Doing great. So today's episode is all about what guests really want. We've hosted combined over 500 stays, and we've collected patterns, pain points, expectations of guests and their psychology. And our goal is to help you understand the guest mindset so that you can anticipate their needs, you can avoid complaints, and you can earn more 5-star reviews and bookings by actually giving what guests want. And that's great value.
Absolutely. So for this episode, we did a fair bit of research with the aid of some AI going through some reviews and things like that. But we've also got some real life stories that we're going to share. And of course, we're going to eventually drill down into some action items that you guys can take away and hopefully apply to your businesses.
Yeah, and I always like to start with why it matters. So guests aren't just booking based on price anymore. Research actually showed that 83% of guests would actually pay more for properties with more positive reviews.
Absolutely. I was booking a place for Thanksgiving over the weekend, actually, and I ran into exactly this. I would much more comfortably spend additional funds to book a place with good reviews that I can tell has a host that cares and where I feel like there's going to be an experience provided.
Yeah, I think that goes in with amenities, right? Probably when you're looking at the pictures, you're not just looking for something that's the cheapest. You're looking for something that's going to create memories with your family and your loved ones. And I think that that's another critical piece to this, you know? So as hosts, we need to move beyond what we have as a nice place and go on to what we deliver, exactly what guests expect. Because expectation and delivery equals a review, could be a referral, or it could be a repeat guest.
Absolutely. And I think as society shifts and as generations kind of mature and move on, and Tyler, with our generation and younger, we tend to value time off more than we value money or things like that. So when I'm looking at, how many nights a year do I spend on vacation with my family? It's not that many. So I'm willing to actually spend more money to guarantee I have a good experience with that. And it's not just all about the bottom line and making sure that we have 4 walls and a bed to sleep on.
Yeah, good point, Luke. We've looked at a few of the different patterns that we've seen and or we've experienced as hosts. Today, what we're going to do is go through some of the most consistent patterns that we've observed over the last 500 plus stays. Why don't you kick us off, Luke, at pattern number 1?
Sure. Pattern number 1 is speed and clarity of communication. I feel like this is a trend we've talked about in almost every episode so far.
Yeah.
But guests book, arrive, they expect you to respond quickly, and research absolutely is going to back this.
Yeah, speed to lead, as they even said in sales. It's no different than in a hosting business. So you have guests that are booking with you. Again, I said I use an automated message, and I say that it's automated, but it kicks off immediately upon booking, letting them know, A, this is an automated message, but B, thanks for booking with us. And here's a few tips and tricks and our digital guidebook to help you as you're getting prepared for your stay.
Yeah. One of the things I'll actually do is I use HostBuddy AI, and I don't use it all the time because I like to have a personal touch with all the guests. But having AI respond to inquiries is incredibly valuable. So you can have your AI learn your guidebooks. They can read all your previous reviews. They can read all your communication and everything. And then when a guest sends you that question at 11 o'clock at night when you might be asleep and says, hey, how far is this from the beach? Your AI can respond immediately and say exactly how far you are from the beach and put it in terms that is understandable then, whether it's, 0.2 miles or a 3-minute walk.
Yeah. Having systems in place that we've talked about before, having these tools at your hand and understanding what they can do can really help take your property to the next level. Pattern 2, I'll go for this one. It was value for money, not just the cheapest. So what I mean by that is guests aren't just looking for the cheapest place. You just said, Luke, when you were looking for your Thanksgiving with get away with your family. In a study, only 11% of guests actually said affordability was a deciding factor. So I think when I think about this, I think about what do we offer our guests? Amenities such as fire pits, hot tubs, saunas, things of that nature. Even just small things like having your kitchen fully stocked with the right kitchen cooking equipment, not having one ladle and one knife, or only having a set of four knives and four forks when you're able to host up to 10 guests. Things of that nature is going to show the value for the money.
Sure. And I think as hosts, we need to make sure we're showcasing that as well. In our listing, are we describing that we have the fully loaded kitchen? Are we posting or not posting, but making sure that we have pictures in our listing that show the fully loaded kitchen? That can be really helpful at times. And, a lot of times when I'm shopping, like I was this last weekend, I couldn't find any listings that talked about their kitchen. I was shopping for Thanksgiving, right? But I was looking into the reviews where guests almost always talk about how great the kitchen was stocked if you in fact have a great a kitchen that's stocked well. So the reviews can really help supplement that.
That's a good point, Luke. And again, even thinking about highlighting keywords in your listing description, things like fire pit, fully stocked kitchen, sauna, lake access, things of that nature, rather than cheap nightly rate, can really help shift your guest avatar or your guest profile from maybe somebody who's just truly looking at just a cheap place to stay versus maybe getting guests that are, maybe higher, looking for a higher value stay and allows you to command a higher average daily rate.
Right. And this goes back into that concept that we've discussed previously of amenity stacking.
Mhm.
So it might not just be the one amenity that is going to put somebody over the edge as to whether or not they're going to book with you, but it's the fact that you have 10 to 15 smaller amenities that you're showcasing that all add up to mean that their value for money is going to be very good.
Yeah. Pattern 3, why don't you talk to us about
Sure.
that one?
Cleanliness, amenities, and quote, just worked. So, what we're talking about here is if your house is really, really clean and everything is in good working order, ideally the guest won't even notice that, right? But the guests are arriving expecting the property to be clean and the door locked to work and all of the amenities to just function. And when that happens, it creates a better guest experience. And the more we can make that seamless, whether it be putting your Wi Fi info into the Airbnb app so it asks when they check in if they want to connect to the Wi-Fi. Are your kitchen appliances functioning correctly? Are they in the correct place so people don't have to just go looking for things? Are you keeping your dishwasher detergent beneath the sink where everybody else in America keeps the dishwasher detergent? Or is it in a cabinet somewhere? Things like that where we're providing a seamless guest experience. That's what guests are looking for.
And it goes again with commanding a higher expectation, higher value stays, higher average daily rates. But remember, if you're creating these higher level properties, guests, to your point, Luke, it's an expectation that things work. And when things aren't working, that's when things get pointed out. And that's where you get yourself potentially in some trouble.
Absolutely. So pattern number 4, Tyler, why don't you take this one?
Yeah, local experience and personalization. So I think about again the services we offer here at Upstream Vacations, and I think about offering the guests the guidebooks with tips, our favorite restaurants. I break things down to like my favorite breakfast place versus my favorite dinner. Doesn't mean that they're going to go there, but I give them multiple recommendations and suggestions. And things like events. So in the summer, I have in my digital guidebook, I have the events that are coming by the different months, getting ready to prep for that for winter. Up here, we have what's called the Frostbite series, and it's a really great event that they host it's 1 weekend a month. And it's partnered with different restaurants and different wineries and cider mills, and they do different tastings paired with different food. All those things, I'm just giving them recommendations of things to do and things that are pertinent during their stay.
Very cool. And I think this is one of probably the biggest thing that we can do once a guest is in the property to absolutely give them what they want because they want their man on the inside, right? They want their person who knows exactly what's going on, where to go, what to do. And if we can show that we're passionate about it, that's even better.
Hmm.
For example, I know one of your favorite place up there is beers, mine too. And so it's a brewery that's on a hill that overlooks the water, and the sunsets are fantastic, and they've got live music outside. It's amazing. But if we can convey that to the guests, we say, hey, like this is one of our favorite places. Make sure you go at sunset if you go. The pizza is really good if you're looking for a bite, but you don't need to go for the pizza. Really, you just need to go for a drink. Yeah, and really convey that to them. I think that that speaks volumes to the guests, and they really appreciate it.
Yeah, I was thinking about another example I had just a couple of weeks ago, Luke. So, one of my favorite times to go up there is like that second, sometimes it's the third week of October, and it's in Charlevoix, it's the Apple Fest, and there's hundreds of different vendors. Of course, there's apples galore, apple anything you want, apple butter, apples itself, you name it. But there's also a lot of vendors making homemade or handcrafted items, which are great, unique things that you can give people for Christmas or birthdays, things of that nature. And I knew I wasn't able to go, but I took the snippet from the Charlotte website and sent it to my guests. And I said, hey, I just want to let you know this is happening when you're coming up. It's probably one of my favorite fall things. And it's great for family and friends. And in the guest response, he was just so thankful for sharing that information. He said, the family and their kids really enjoyed it. So again, it's just taking it that extra step. It's curating something that's unique and special to our area and sharing that with our guests.
Absolutely. Couldn't say that any better right there. So pattern number 5, predictability and surprise. What do you think we mean by that, Tyler?
Obviously, there's things that guests expect during their stay, but I think guests like to know what to expect. Again, that goes back to that proactive communication, letting them know of some of the certain things that maybe are unique to your property. But I also think small surprises, certain things, and we mentioned this in a prior episode, right? Like the just in case basket, things of that nature, or a small written note, handwritten note. Those things seem so small, and they are, but they have such a big impact during a guest stay.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when those surprises make it into the reviews, it's even more powerful for future bookings.
Yeah.
So when you don't maybe you don't talk about your waffle bar or something like that, but then a guest mentioned it in the review, shows just a little bit extra attention to detail on your part, and it shows that you're also going the extra mile to surprise and delight the guest. So like this place that I booked over the weekend, it was nowhere in the listing, but they have apparently a gourmet coffee bar and a waffle bar. And
I was
the only reason
wondering
I
where you came up with the waffle bar. I was like, this
oh,
is
the waffle bar is
genius.
a
And I
big
want
thing
to
now.
go.
Yeah,
I
have
did
you
not
have you
know
heard of
this.
these places with a waffle bar?
No, but I'm so
Yeah,
intrigued.
yeah. I mean, it sounds like an absolute headache to
It
logistically.
does.
But, I mean, maybe in the right market, it's easier to pull off this. We're going to the Smokies for Thanksgiving, so that's maybe it's a
Got
little bit
it.
easier there. I don't know. But the fact that they had a waffle bar and then some sort of a gourmet coffee set up pretty much pushed me
Yeah.
over the edge. And I thought it was kind of classy that they didn't have a million pictures of it in the listing. They
Right.
left that as something extra for the guests to talk about. Or
Yeah.
maybe they just don't have it anymore. I don't know, but maybe I'm going to be very disappointed. But
Well, I like what you said because it went back to our surprise and delight in one of our prior episodes. But that's a great point. And man, now I'm thinking about waffles. So thanks
yeah.
a lot, Luke.
Yeah. So
All
Tyler,
right.
do you have anything like that in your listing where maybe it's not showcased that much, but guests are pleasantly surprised when they arrive?
I'd say a couple of the simple things are just, again, the little individual toothpaste and toothbrush for people that forgot, or Q-tips, individual Q-tips, feminine products. Another thing that guests really appreciate is, we have that barrel sauna, right? It's pretty new. I have embroidered with our White Birch Cabin logo, but they're really nice waffle, like thick waffle knitted robes for them to use when they go out from in the house out to the sauna and back. And they love that. They love having those robes and wearing them. And I guess it makes them feel special. I don't know. When I wear it, I kind of feel special too. I feel like I'm in a nice hotel.
Yeah, that's cool. I might do that for this winter for the people that are shuffling out and back from the hot tub.
Yeah.
Are you doing any kind of a slipper or anything like that?
Oh, that's a great point. You made me forget. I do actually. So on Amazon, I bought, I think it's like 180 something packets of slippers, and they're individually packaged, which is nice. I like individually packaged things because that makes me feel like it's not open and it's really new. So in the guest robes, which we have the robes hanging, we have two robes in each guest room. And then in the little pockets of the robes, we put a pair of slippers in each of those robes for them to use during their stay.
Perfect. Oh, that's even better.
Yeah.
Taking it up even further. So how much, are you having to replace the robes, or are they walking away at all or anything like that?
No, they're not, but I would tell you, my wife came up with an idea, and it was on Etsy, and, it's so on the robes, obviously, they hang on a hanger, right? But then there's a little tag on the hanger, and it says, like I can't remember the exact saying, it's like, enjoy while you stay, not to take away. And it's just one of those reminders like, hey, you can enjoy this, but please don't take it with you. So I think that that helps alleviate that. I haven't, knock on wood, had anybody walk away with them, but yeah, no, it's been great. A lot of positive feedback.
Cool. That sounds like a perfect surprise. I like that.
Yeah. So let's move on to a next little topic here, which is some of our common pain points that we've seen. Here, a list of issues that guests consistently raise. And if you fix them, maybe it'll help you avoid some negative reviews. So why don't you talk about some of those things?
Okay, so before we get into this, I do want to touch on how we found these.
Okay.
And this is a really good technique. It works in any market,
Mm,
but go through and you find Airbnbs that don't have perfect 5-star review ratings, but maybe they have a ton of reviews. So they have 200 reviews and they're at a 4.95 or something, right? You copy and paste all those reviews into ChatGPT and let ChatGPT read them for you. And I'm going to do this for probably 4 or 5 properties, so close to so I'm going to get maybe 5 to 700 reviews in there. And then after ChatGPT has read all of these, you can then ask questions about what the guests like, what the guests don't like, where they're coming from, all that sort of stuff. So you can build out sort of a guest persona just from these. But that is where we got information like this for what guests don't want. So,
hmm.
common pain points. First, unclear check in instructions. If they can't even get in the first place, it's a pain point, right?
Yeah, this is a critical one. This goes back to, being proactive and timing out when your communications are as well. You don't want to send the link with your address, 30 minutes prior to potential check in. They need to know where they're going.
Yep, absolutely. So, slow or absent Wi Fi.
Yeah, we see a lot of remote workers. I know Luke at Seven Pines, you turned a old dirty closet into a really beautiful and unique workspace, which I love, right? With the coffee next to it. I just love that setup that you did there. But, you obviously have to have reliable Wi-Fi for them to be able
Yeah.
to work, but a lot of people like myself included, I've been working remote now for 5 years, right? So it's great to be able to get away, and I'm blessed to have that remote flexibility to where I can go work anywhere, but I also need reliable internet during my stay. So, what can you do? How do you portray that you have reliable internet, Luke?
Well, there's a couple of ways they're the most common. That's taking a screenshot of speed test and putting it in the photos of your listing. And
Hmm.
Airbnb actually has a feature as well where you can log into your internet while you're physically there, and it'll do its own speed test, and then it'll advertise it on the listing for how fast your internet is.
Yeah, that's what I did, and I love that. I thought that was pretty cool that Airbnb did that, and it worked really well. I thought it was pretty accurate because I did a self test and then I did the Airbnb one just to see if there was a big variance, and it wasn't. There was hardly any.
Hmm.
So another one would be hidden cost or unclear fees. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
Guests don't want to be misled, right? They don't want surprises. So, I wouldn't expect, if my place said it holds up to 10, I wouldn't expect an extra fee if it was above 8 guests. That's something that comes to mind. What about you, Luke?
Yeah, I think we talked at the beginning about how guests are more value centered and not as price sensitive, but they also don't want to feel like they're being nickel and dimed, and it's difficult, in some cases to even book these places and pay the extra money, or you're spending a lot of money for a vacation, and then to feel like things are being layered on top of that, it's off putting, and nobody likes that. If you're paying for the place, it should be all inclusive of everything that you're getting unless it's very, very clear up front. So an example of this might be, heating a pool or something like that.
Right.
So, people just saying, hey, if you want to heat the pool the whole time, it's going to cost this. Make that very, very clear up front, and guests can make that determination. But they shouldn't be charged extra for using, extra towels or something like that. That's absolutely should not be happening.
Yeah. Another one is broken or missing amenities. I'm going to say this because I had a rather recent experience with this, right? I never use a blender for anything. Then again, Luke, I'm not a big cook, so maybe that's why. But, White Birch is pretty new, right? Bought a brand new, and I mean, it wasn't like a Ninja, but it was a higher end blender. And the guests even asked if we had one. I'm like, yeah, absolutely we do. And, they get there, and guess what? It's not working. So they let me know again. Does this make or break my opportunity to get a 5-star review? No. Why? Because I immediately took action, reached out to again one of my vendors, which was one of my cleaners that lived down the road, and was like, "Hey, do you happen to have a blender that I can borrow, or could you run to the market and grab me one and take over?" Again, goes back to one of our prior episodes about building that value and trust and relationships, and how important it is with your handyman and your cleaner. But she went and grabbed one. Actually, she had one. She's like, I got a brand new one I have to use. So not only did she take it over, but then I just bought that one from her because it was brand new. And again, just the proactive, transparent, being like, so sorry, I'm going to reach out to somebody. I'm going to get this taken care of for you. And then timely, helping alleviate that pain point, I think turn that what could have been a potential bad review to something positive.
Sure. In a lot of markets, unfortunately, Northern Michigan's not really one of them for us right now. But in other places I've operated, we had great Instacart and
Mhm.
Walmart delivery and things like that. So guests are absolutely delighted when they say, "Hey, sorry, I broke your spatula." If when they get back from dinner, there's a new spatula on the doorstep, or any you just replace whatever it is. If they have any sort of issues, we can have a blender delivered in 1 hour,
Right.
and having that availability is amazing. So if you're in a market like that, you know. I would lean very, very heavy on Instacart or any of the other delivery services.
Good point. Good point.
Yep.
All right.
And
What's
then,
our last one there?
just one more thing about that,
Oh
but
yeah.
missing or broken amenities do happen, right? And I think if we can, almost always, it's okay if you communicate it in advance. But you never want to be in a position where maybe your arcade machine doesn't work, and then the guest has to figure that out. If you say, "Hey, I'm sorry, the last guest reported the arcade machine was broken," or "My cleaner found that the arcade machine was broken while she was doing the clean today. I'm not gonna be able to get somebody out there to fix it before you check in, but I just wanted to let you know in advance." Probably all's forgiven, and it's not that big of a deal.
Yep. Good point. So last one is lack of local information and support. Let's talk about that one, Luke.
Sure. So I think that starts with making sure that we're getting them all the information that they might need proactively so they don't have to reach out. So that's going to be in our guest books, our messaging, Airbnb guidebooks if you do those. Just making sure that you're putting out as much information as you can to try and proactively do things. I know both of our guidebooks have links to YouTube videos where it's showing them how to work different amenities and things like that. But then when and if they do reach out, I'm not going to give them one word answers. I'm not just going to refer them back to my guidebook. I want to make sure that I'm giving them good in-depth information, and preferably with some local recommendation. So if they ask me where the closest place is to buy canned goods or something like that, I'm going to say, yeah, the closest place is here, but they close early. The next closest place is going to be over here. Or
Yep.
if you're coming from the north, the best place to stop is here. If you're coming from the south, the
Right.
best place is here. And just go another step deeper to where they really feel like they're getting local support and that we care. So we don't want to be short, and we don't want to be, non-helpful.
Man, you nailed that on the head, Luke. So thinking about these pain points again, look at your competitors, look at yourself and your reviews, and use tools like ChatGPT or another AI and gather this feedback. Look at what are your true pain points. You may not realize what they are, and I think that's the first step, is recognizing that we're not perfect, looking at what are our areas of opportunity, and then taking action.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I was building out a new property right now, if I just closed on something or I just went under contract, what I would absolutely be doing is building a list of these pain points and figuring out how I'm going to solve them before they ever even happen. Because all the information's there, you just need to use it and make sure that you're solving them before they can happen. And then you're going to get great reviews just by doing that one thing alone and solving the market's top 5 pain points. And other things will come up, but you'll be way ahead of the game just from doing that. Yeah. Looking forward, I think guests' expectations are going to continue to rise as short-term rentals and hospitality continue to evolve, as hosts like us and like other owner-managed properties continue to step up the game and beat out the competition. So we're going to have to keep elevating ourselves as markets mature and making sure that we stand out and we're providing a better and better experience.
Yeah. I
It's one of the reasons why we call the company Upstream Vacations is because we really believe in getting upstream of issues just like this. And the ways that we can find these pain points and solve them proactively before they even happen is really just tied into our whole ethos sort of as a company and how we operate. And I didn't coin that phrase. That There's a popular book called Upstream. I highly recommend it. But it's just all about getting upstream of issues and fixing them. So the first time you hear things like this, it's the onus is on you as a host to fix it and to get upstream of those issues. And the more we can do that, I think the more successful we're going to be.
Yeah. Great point, Luke. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. And one of the things is if you found this helpful, share it with another host. Subscribe to our podcast if you haven't already, the Peak Season Podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. And if you want help implementing these systems, reach out to us at upstreamvacations.com and we'll talk you through how we built ours step by step.
All right. Well, that's all we got for today. So here's to your next guest saying, this is exactly what I hope for. We'll catch you in the peak season. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.